I've never seen fire move like that or act this way, behave this way at this time of day, high humidities, maybe more moisture. And so, the concern for fire chiefs, firefighters everywhere, it doesn't matter whether you're federal, state, or local, is crew safety.
Enchanted Sky Media.
From the Enchanted Sky Studios in Prescott, Arizona, this is Code 3, the Firefighters Podcast, hosted by award-winning journalist Scott Orr. Code 3 features interviews with leading members of the fire service, discussing firefighting strategies, tactics, and other topics you need to know more about. Now, here's Scott.
That's right, and I will not let Parkinson's stop me. Thanks for joining me again here on another edition of Code 3. You are listening to the show for and about firefighters. Let's get started. If you're a city firefighter, you'd probably rather not deal with wildland fires at all. That's normally not a problem until the flames reach the wildland-urban interface. That's happening a lot more than it used to. Then you guys from the cities need to know stuff like the 18 watchouts.
Pop quiz. What's your 11th watchout? No, don't look at him. Look at me. What's your 11th watchout?
The fire liner cut has been anchored.
Wrong. That's 8.
Or how to be ready to go on a run that lasts 12 hours. A few decades ago, city firefighters didn't have to be concerned with this. Welcome to the new normal. Here to discuss that with me is Brian Fennessy. Brian is the chief of the Orange County, California Fire Authority. He began his fire service career in 1978, working as a hotshot crew member with the U.S. Forest Service. He eventually made his way up to crew superintendent. In 1990, Brian joined the San Diego Fire Rescue Department, and he became chief of that department in 2015. He's held multiple incident command system certifications and positions, and he's also served on national incident management teams. And Brian Fennessy joins me now. Welcome to Code 3.
Thank you, Scott.
How well cross-trained are structural firefighters for this particular job?
Well, that's a great question. I think, typically it really depends on, where geographically a municipal or structural fire department is located. Somewhere, like California, they're very well, and Arizona and other places in the West, they're very well trained, or at least trained to a minimum standard in some of the more urban areas, because we all respond to the same wildland-urban interface fires. There may be other places within the West and certainly out east where there is little to any wildland-urban interface threat, and that don't participate perhaps in the mutual aid system, that perhaps don't have that same level of minimum basic training. But what I like to share with people, Scott, is, even the largest, most municipal, structurally based metropolitan fire departments in the West now need to consider themselves also wildland fire agencies. That is what we do, and that is what we respond to as part of the mutual aid system. So it's imperative that all of our firefighters are trained to a level that will not only provide assistance from a suppression perspective, but also keep themselves safe and those that they work with safe so they can go home.
When did this become an issue? I mean, there was a time that I recall that city firefighters worked within the city, wildland guys worked in the national forest, and that was it. Now, of course, things are different. When did that change?
I think it's been an evolution. I agree with you. I've been doing this. I've been a firefighter since 1978, and I started with the U.S. Forest Service. I spent 13 years as a wildland firefighter with the federal land resource agencies, and all of that time being on hotshot crews or hotshot crews assigned to helicopters. And left as a crew superintendent, and that was very much the case. We would be up on the side of the hill dealing with the wildland fire part of the emergency, and the structure fire folks would be down around the houses providing structure defense. And I believe we started to see that evolution into the 80s and certainly into the 90s as fires got larger, as developments became more and more prevalent, in areas that had been open space, and now the structure fire departments were actually responding to fires within these areas, to the point where today, everybody is affected by wildland fire. I would even offer up that those that live in a high-rise condominium in the middle of a downtown metropolitan area like San Diego or LA are affected when these large fires cause businesses to shut down, smoke to affect airports. The dollar loss, we're finding it far exceeds that of the cost of suppressing these fires anymore, that the dollar loss to the economy. So it's become, certainly in California, an issue for everybody. But back to your question, I think it's been a slow evolution. And, we are now seeing, large municipal departments, San Francisco, LA City, San Diego City, that are sending strike teams to, forested areas, timber fires, those sorts of things. And as fire chiefs, we can't send them off without, first providing them a level of training that allow us to believe that they will be successful again, and not just suppressing the fire, but coming home and safe. But it's been a long, it's probably been an evolution of many, many years, Scott.
Are these fires more intense than they used to be?
Well, I think what we're seeing is certainly, not just, it used to be a Southern California thing in the fall, and we have fires to the north and certainly in the west during the, bulk of the summer months. And that's changed, over the last 10, 12 years. And I believe it's climate change, but we are seeing, wind-driven fires concurrent. We just saw one, between the Camp Fire in Butte County and the Woolsey Fire in Southern California. I can't remember a time when we had offshore winds or like that in both Northern and Southern California. The fuels are even though we had, precipitation out here in California this year, the fuels, after sustained drought are dead. Many of those fuels are not going to come back, and they're now, within a live fuel bed that is drying out rapidly. Fires in Colorado, fires in Washington. I remember a time when the Panorama Fire in 1980 destroyed 300 homes in San Bernardino. And I remember thinking then, if you talk then, that was unheard of. That losing 300 homes just doesn't happen, and we're not going to. That was an anomaly. Unfortunately, losing dozens of homes or that many, depending on activity in the West, may or may not even make national news headline anymore. I think in many ways we, but the public may have become desensitized because losing structures in forests, wildland fires has become, quite common. It's unfortunate, but, fires used to be that, on occasion you'd have fires in wilderness areas that we knew there were not enough firefighters, aircraft, ground equipment that were going to be able to suppress that fire, and it would take the rain, the winter to come to do that for us. That has become common, and not just in wilderness areas. We get so many of these fires burning at the same time. There aren't enough firefighters in the country, perhaps the world, and aircraft to fully suppress them. So we find ourselves prioritizing fires in areas of fires where to apply our limited resources to do the best good for the most.
It's true, those DC-10 air tankers and the 747 Global Air Tanker find themselves busier than ever because everyone wants them on their fire now.
You're exactly right. And while they are extremely capable, there's only a few of them, right? And, when the federal Forest Service, contract air tanker fleet became grounded because of the accidents that they were experiencing. Gosh, it must have been, 10 years ago or whenever it was. We haven't fully recovered. The state of California has done a great job with their air tanker fleet. They've just, I believe, received federal government that are being retrofitted. We'll start to see those, probably 2 or 3 a year coming out. So we're getting better then, but as you say, it's just a limited resource. And when you've got multiple fires going and multiple fires that are threatening life and property, there just aren't enough to go around.
In your opinion, has there been enough attention given to coordinating command and control between wildland and city fire units when they have to work together?
I think so, and maybe I've got a bias because I've spent a large part of my career here in Southern California, but just about every county, certainly in Southern California, are training regularly with their federal and state partners, meeting, discussing, tabletop, and those sorts of things. In fact, on July 9th, all of the agencies that operate helicopters at night are going to be conducting a full-scale exercise in LA County to include the Forest Service. So we're all fighting, we're all drilling and exercising at night, talking together. We're on the same frequency. So this has become very, very common. I often say, and you'll hear me say it at just about every news conference, that there's no greater threat to life and property than wildland fire in California. I used to say just Southern California, but I believe that's now in California. So the coordination among the local, state, federal fire agencies has never been better. It's impressive, and it's one of the things we're very proud of.
What do you consider to be the most serious safety issue for crews operating in the wildland-urban interface?
I think it's, right now, I believe it's the rates of spread, fire spread that we're seeing. We used to, many of us have spent, a lot of time doing this work, perhaps on crews where you had to really hone your skill at making good fire behavior predictions. That's much harder now. The fires are not behaving like they did for many, many years. Some of it's due, of course, to the unhealthy forest conditions out there. We've done such a great job at suppressing fires over the last 80, 90, 100 years and keeping them small that the forest has got an undergrowth that is unhealthy. The drought, certainly, and the fuel conditions. But I'm personally, watching fire spread in ways that we've never seen before. So there have been occasions where we've certainly felt that our crews were good, safe, had time to be where they were and to move out. The fire became too close or active, and we're finding that timeline has jumped up quite a bit. I can't begin to tell you how many times that we're remarking on each other, wow, I've never seen fire move like that or act this way, behave this way at this time of day, with high humidities, with maybe more moisture. And so, the concern for fire chiefs, firefighters everywhere, it doesn't matter whether you're federal, state, or local, is crew safety, citizen safety. We are focusing more now that fires have become, in many instances, uncontrollable, focusing our efforts on rescue, getting people out of the way of these fires, making sure that our firefighters are not putting themselves in positions where they're going to harm themselves. I think the fire spread, we're seeing it in Northern California through the timber model. We're certainly seeing it through Southern California, the chaparral we have here. Where you live in Arizona, it's the same thing. When we talk to our Arizona counterparts, they're seeing fire behave like we've not seen in the past. So it's definitely certainly concerning for all of us.
With that in mind, how effective are prevention programs like FireWise, given the fact that fires are growing in intensity?
I think they're still very effective. It certainly gives, those people that perhaps aren't thinking about, fire as we do, the citizen that decides they're going to live in a community or a development, to know that, hey, there has been a model run on the risk, with where they've chosen to live. I believe the models are continuing to be improved based on what we're experiencing. Some of the areas that we thought were given, mitigation or perhaps safe or safer, what we're finding maybe is not the case. I'm hearing things from some of the developers about creating areas within the development so that if a fire were to rapidly approach, people could, instead of getting on the road trying to run from the fire, safely refuge in big open areas. These are things that, in the past, hadn't really been considered. But we have to, in the West, we have to make sure our communities know that we need to learn to live with fire. When you live in areas that you have canyons and open space, you don't necessarily have to be living right on the edge of that open space to be at risk. When the wind blows, certainly we're seeing fires start, many blocks within the edge of that open area. Perhaps even quarter mile, half mile, we're seeing embers and fires start in areas of communities that people just don't expect. It's a changed environment out there, Scott, as you know.
How do we deal with the public when, instead of holding up the signs that say "Thank you, firefighters," they perceive that the fire department isn't doing enough when they lose homes? What can we do to make the point that everything's been done that could be done?
I think the key is being transparent, is being open and honest that, as well-trained and equipped as our firefighters are, during these extreme fire conditions and spreads that we're seeing, there just is not enough fire equipment for firefighters to park a fire engine in every driveway. And even if we did have enough to put a fire engine in every driveway, that is not a guarantee. Much of the success we do have with fires encroach and impinge upon communities is the work that the community has done themselves. The homeowner that's provided us the defensible space to operate safely and protect their home. Again, you can't put a fire engine in every driveway, so many homes will go, without protection. But if they have the defensible space that we've asked for, it's possible that their home will survive because of the preparation they've done in advance of that fire occurring. But I agree with you. It's nice to see the signs and whatnot, but structure loss has never been greater. It's never been higher. Life loss has never been higher. We're not winning the war. We need to really, ask more of the community, and some of that is, hey, please, please, do your defensible space. Have your ready, set, go plan. Have everything prepared so that we stand the best chance. But we're working within a completely new fire environment. It's very different than it was when I started in the late 70s and working through the 80s. Firefighters are doing all they can to protect life and property, but it's not a reasonable expectation for firefighters to be expected to lose their lives just protecting structures. Certainly they're willing to put it all on the line for, the preservation of life. But when it comes to buildings, none of us expect our firefighters to push beyond the point where, they are now likely going to lose their lives protecting a building. They'll do all they can, but when it's time to go, we expect them to go. And buildings can be rebuilt. Loss of life obviously affects so many. It's a very dangerous environment out there right now.
All right, we'll leave it there. Brian Fennessy, thanks for talking with me today on Code 3.
Thank you, Scott.
And we put some more information about how to be prepared when fire reaches the wildland-urban interface on our website, code3podcast.com/WUI. Check it out. All right, that's it. That's all for this edition of Code 3. This time we talked about what it takes to be ready when wildland fires threaten structures. How prepared is your department, and what have your experiences been? I'd like to hear from you on this. Just email me, scott@code3podcast.com, or leave a voicemail at 562-337-9902. I'll read your comments and play them back on a future show. Thank you for listening. I'll be back next time with more, and I hope you'll join me. I'm Scott Orr, and until then, stay safe.
Code 3 is a production of Enchanted Sky Media. To contact us, get more information on today's topic, or subscribe to the podcast, go to code3podcast.com.